Hi, this is Dr. Linda Miles, and I want to talk about two very important components of mental health. We talk so much about mental illness, but perhaps not enough about what it is to be really mentally healthy. Now, two components that we know that are critical are one, a sense of agency, and two, flexibility. So let me just break that down a little bit. So let's talk about agency. If you put on a shroud of victimhood when something happens and you just feel powerless, it's like this is it, the end, things are not going to get better, then you sink really into a low place. And that's one of the hallmarks of depression, is a feeling that it's going to always be that way. I cannot tell you how many hundreds and hundreds of people I've seen in my career who tell me all or nothing kinds of stories about their life, even though maybe they're 25 and it's over. So they would say something like, well, I'll never have another relationship. Now, I did that when I got divorced and I was in my early 30s. I thought it was over. I mean, that's it. I had my chance. That it was gone. I remember the irony of mentioning this to my future husband, who at the time was a friend and a colleague. And he was a psychiatrist. And we were just sitting in his office one day, getting ready for a patient that we're going to see together. And I basically told him that I was never going to date again, that, I knew I'd had my chance. I was in my 30s, whatever. And I'll never forget. He kind of smiled at me and he said, I think you're going to have another date. Now, it's very funny in retrospect, but at the time, I believed it. And oftentimes, that's what you need to hear. You need to have a friend who says that to you. And my dear friend, he and I did not become a couple, for another 8 years after that. But he planted the seed with me. He was challenging my depressed thinking, and in a very ironic way, because we wound up married for 35 incredible years. And I lost him this year. He had dementia, and I lost him. But I don't tell myself that my life is over. I grieve. It hurts. And of course, there's a hollow place that can never be filled. But on the other hand, I know that things move on and that there are other good things in my life. So think of and. It's like this happened and I'm going to move on to what's next. Okay, so that's number one, is agency. So you need to have that. Number two is the flexibility to move on. There's so many stories in great literature about people who got stuck in certain ways of thinking and they could never get out. Like the story of the woman, Mrs. Haversham, from great literature, who still had her wedding dress from 50 years before, when the groom didn't show up at the altar. She was probably 18, and in the story, she's more like 80, but she's stuck in her mind. So you need to keep telling the story and don't let it end with that event. It should be, okay, this happened. It was not fun. So I can say, I was divorced. It was a very tough time. I felt some depression and some darkness. And I moved on with an incredibly fulfilling and beautiful relationship that I never in my wildest dreams could have imagined. So just remember agency and flexibility. Thank you.